Hello everybody, ReverendDrRed here. And before I start with anything, I just want to mention that my prayers go out for all the victims and the families of the victims of everyone that was involved in the Aurora, Colorado movie theater massacre. I would also like to say that this video is going to contain some very controversial information. If you don't agree with anything that I have to say, that's fine. I understand that, but please no bashing in the comment section. I don't mind debate, but I'm not going to tolerate being bashed. I'm going to present some information that I have been questioning since this incident first happened, and I've been waiting for the police to ask these questions and to give some sort of answer for it, and 48 hours later, they have not. But there are other independent journalists and news websites that have asked these questions and have voiced their opinions based on past incidents in other areas. I've read dozens upon dozens of articles revolving around this case, from mainstream to the independent news sites. I have a few links to my sources of information where I'm going to be covering in this video in the description box. So just click on one of the links below for my, to see where I'm getting some of this information from. Now, getting into what I want to say. Everybody in America really needs to worry, and worry hard. Obama passed quite a bit of executive orders, giving him pretty much full-on dictatorial authority to declare martial law. The problem is, in order to get the public on his side, to kind of ease everything along, he needs everybody to kind of see things his way. Right now, he doesn't have that. Yes, he still has people that want to vote for him and everything, but he's kind of fallen off base, and a lot of independents starting to side with Mitt Romney. Well, next week, they're set to sign, Obama and Hillary are set to sign the Arms Trade Treaty with the United Nations. Now, even though everybody suggests that it's not going to affect our Second Amendment rights here in America, and it's not pertaining to, arms trade in America amongst law-abiding citizens, there's different pieces in these executive orders of Obama's that kind of suggest he's going to have the authority to do whatever. And actually, if anything was to happen, and the people cry out, for the government to do something, naturally, whatever doesn't affect our gun laws, now certainly will. And we are going to be under the United Nations law, not the United States Constitution or American law. And as we've seen in history, time and time again, every single government that is disarmed, it's not long after the disarmament of the citizens that a complete dictatorial takeover and massacre of hundreds of thousands of citizens takes place. And there is reason to believe that this massacre was a staged setup or a false flag attack to help everybody kind of lean in Obama's and Hillary's decision to sign this gun ban treaty and to make it affect all laws clear across the board, successfully nullifying the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. But what they're doing here is they're trying to also show, they're suggesting that he had no, that James Holmes had no prior record with the police except for a speeding ticket. But independent journalists have recently declared that they had found evidence that James Holmes was not only a member of San Diego Occupy. So there you have, a leftist-leaning movement that's trying to use their First Amendment rights, but that he is also an anarchist and a member of Occupy Black Bloc, which calls for violence and death to the cops, etc., and so on. And in this society, for whatever reason, anarchism is thought to be believed along the right side of things. So now we're successfully attacking First Amendment rights clear across the board, left and right, by suggesting that he was a member of Occupy San Diego, as well as the anarchist wannabe organization of Occupy Black Bloc. It's also been said that he left the Occupy Black Bloc movement because they weren't quote-unquote radical enough. Wherever that story is, with whether he was or wasn't a member of Occupy Black Bloc, there have been photos that have been surfaced of him being arrested from an Occupy San Diego protest. So obviously he's had a prior police record other than a speeding ticket. Then there's the fact that, let's look at his school record. What was he going to school for? He was going to school to be a neuroscientist. He was part of a program back, I don't know if it was his, I don't remember if it was his bachelor's program he was in or what it was, but he was a member of a program prior to the doctoral program that he was currently in Colorado for mind-altering neuroscience research, where he was, the test dummy, so to speak, or the guinea pig for this research. And it's been suggested that he may have been part of another research program in the doctoral program that he was in, because apparently professors in the neuroscience area use their students as test subjects, and he already offered himself up as a test subject in a prior program, and it's being suggested that he may have been a test subject in the doctoral program as well, suggesting that all this came about from a test gone terribly wrong. And keeping that thought in mind, let me just run a couple of facts past you. Okay, now you have somebody who, going by what the mainstream is suggesting, everybody can't really go by mainstream news media for the facts. They don't really report everything. They only kind of report certain things so that they can try to push everybody's mind in one direction. Everybody's belief in one direction. But now, going by mainstream facts, we have the fact that he was shy. People thought he was weird, but they didn't believe that he had the capacity to pull something like this off. A lot of people that knew him back in San Diego thought that he was a nice kid. He grew up in a rather well family life, no problems. Then all of a sudden his grades start declining. He purchases roughly $20,000, if not more, of equipment, not even including the equipment he needed for the bombs, just the Kevlar, the weapons, ammunition for the shooting itself. It was roughly $20,000 to come across all that. Now I got unemployed, so how did he come up with all this money? Then there's the fact that he went in and, ready for war, and he had multiple firearms on him. But he just gives himself up and surrenders, and then he warns the police that he has booby traps in his apartment. Why would you you're set out for destruction, kill as many people as possible, you even set a trap for the police. Why would you just surrender and warn about the booby trap? Now, the speculation going out that this was all part of a false flag attack, and that he was a CIA operative, and they're going to hide him. It was determined he needs to be executed. Some slob in prison that's already on death row will take his spot, and him and his family are going to live under a new identity, who knows where, fully paid for by the government. It's being suggested that he's a real-life Jason Bourne. That he was programmed to do this. Somebody had to have aided him in getting the supplies, or at least the money for the supplies. And on the set day and time, he goes to act out his mission. And the gun jams. Now, his programming didn't account for what happened with the gun jams, because he had multiple weapons on him. When that gun jammed, why didn't he pick up another gun? And now, because there's a flaw in his mission, he doesn't know what to do. His mind aborts the mission, and him in his daze just kind of surrenders himself and hands himself over to the police and warns them about the booby traps. And according to a latest report I just heard a little while ago, he is no longer cooperating with the police, hasn't been for a good while now, and he's still acting all crazy, almost as if he feels he's in the movie, which is completely insane. Obviously, this guy has some mental issues. I'm not going to argue with anybody on that one, but you've got to look at why. Where did this all come from? I mean, yes, he's under a lot of stress. And yes, doctoral classes, particularly neuroscience and classes of that type of stature, brings on a lot of stress. And not everybody, can deal with it. A lot of students tend to drop out, but not every one of them just snap like that and go on a shooting rampage. If that were the case, we'd have a lot more cases similar to this, but we don't. It's almost like his mind is kind of malfunctioned. And anybody who wants to believe that the government wouldn't do something like that, or something like this can't happen here in America, one of the articles linked below has links to at least 4 cases where the FBI admits that they had involvement in the case. I believe a few of them had to do with the Occupy movement. But they admit their involvement in the case. And they supplied the weaponry and the explosives. And they more or less planted the idea into these people's minds, helped them organize it, and even drove them to the site before then, arresting them for criminal behavior that if it wasn't for the undercover FBI agent in the first place, they might not have even had the thought to act out such an act. So they're setting up false flag attacks on purpose, for the purpose of their own political agenda, to disarm the American populace, and almost undoubtedly to bring in a tyrannical dictatorship. I know it sounds completely far-fetched and completely out there, but I did say in the beginning of this video it was going to be extremely conspiratorial and controversial content. But you need to understand that the government did admit, the FBI did admit to doing this. It's been going on at least since the 1940s. There are numerous cases that, if you Google it, can be found where the CIA, in some instances, even admits to different things they've done, as well as the Department of Defense. And then, it's also been stated that, considering the gear he was wearing, he had to have had connections to somebody in the police force or in the military. Now, either way you cut it, this kid did not have that much money, if any at all. He was unemployed, and he's trying to cover, the tuition and his daily living, with his food, supplies, blah, 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 blah. And apparently he was highly involved in online roleplay games. And all of a sudden, he just wakes up and decides to go on a murderous rampage. I mean, I'm not defending the kid. Obviously, the kid committed a crime. He needs to, be dealt with. He needs to, what's coming to him is coming to him. But this isn't completely, entirely his fault. There are others involved. There's no way that someone who's unemployed and it was more than likely barely getting by on his own food and other supplies needed can come up with tens of thousands of dollars to buy all the equipment that he bought and the weapons and everything. And in fact, there's the fact that he also have to be trained in how to use the weapons. I mean, you don't just pick up a firearm and pull the trigger. It takes a lot of training, especially when you're dealing with a rifle. I don't know how many of you out there have actually fired a gun before, but I fired pistols of all calibers and I fired rifles. There's a kick when you pull that trigger. The higher the caliber, the more of a kickback you're going to feel. If you don't know what to expect, and if you haven't, gone to the range quite a few times and handled that firearm and get yourself used to the firearm, there's no way you're going to be able to pull off what this kid pulled off in the movie theater. You wouldn't have had that good a control of the firearms. And I'm sorry, but if you have never handled a pistol before, there's no way you're going to be able to fire a .40 caliber pistol without it flying out of your hands. That is a very powerful pistol. You have to know the kind of kick that's going to give to you, and before you pull the trigger, expect the kick. So you can, brace yourself and brace that gun. So you stay steady with it. So your shot, goes where you're aiming. There's no novice that's going to pick up a 40 caliber pistol or a semi-automatic machine gun, or even a shotgun for that matter, and fire it off in a professional manner without ever firing it before or having any kind of training with weaponry. I can tell that from my personal experience. It's just not going to happen. So now there's the question of who funded this kid's equipment and weapons? Who trained them how to use the firearms? And was the idea of this massacre entirely his? Was he recruited by the CIA for a false flag attack? Or did he allow himself to be a guinea pig for a neuroscience project that went way wrong? Now, those are pretty much the three options that we're looking at. And unfortunately, the mainstream media doesn't want to answer any of these questions. They don't want to, go into too much depth. They're just trying to paint a really quiet, shy guy that everybody liked. Though, a little weird he was. No police record or anything else, and then just one day he just gets up and snaps. Now, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that story for a second. Now, if he was arrested at Occupy San Diego, and he has a previous police record, other than that speeding ticket, he was unemployed, yet he had $20,000 plus worth of weaponry and equipment. Who supplied the money? Who supplied the training? These are questions that now have to be answered. And if this was a false flag attack, it's already doing two things successfully. It's pushing America, at least mainstream America, right in the hands of the government, who want them to ask them to do something about gun control. So now when they go and sign this arms trade treaty with the United Nations, they have an excuse to do so, where it also includes domestic firearms here in America and successfully overrides the Second Amendment. It also allows the government to successfully override the First Amendment with the idea that, he's an anarchist, which is perceived, like as I said, perceived to be right-wing, even though that's false, but perceived to be right-wing. But he's also a member of, or was a member of, the Occupy movement, which is left-wing. And there's other groups on both sides that are exercising their First Amendment rights. So now we're going to be told that we no longer have a First Amendment rights because all it does is bring violence, which is not true. There's a few bad apples in every basket, but one bad apple doesn't mean that the whole basket is bad. Address the bad apple, throw it away, and you still have a basket remaining full of good apples. And there's speculation that this is going to be used for a third purpose. That third purpose is to start an all-out race riot, an all-out race war. when they're going to try to perceive James Holmes as a racist, and his intent was to go in there and kill as many black people as possible. Now, if that be the case, I'm still waiting to see further evidence leaning in that direction, because so far all I've seen was a few white witnesses and Asian tenant of his apartment building that was interviewed and was put out in the news media as far as what they had to say about James Holmes and what went on inside the movie theater. So I don't know how true that third thing is, but that's what people are saying. So that's what's going on out there. But considering all the evidence that was brought before me, anyways, and as I said, the past 48 hours, most of my time that was spent was filing this case, and this case alone. I didn't listen to any other news. I didn't read any other news. I was strictly following this case, trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. And I've been asking different questions as far as the fire alarms. Why didn't they go off? And so I'm used to walking into movie theaters where the exits are all attached to the fire alarm. So if you knock the door open, the sprinklers kick on, and the fire alarm goes off, the whole nine. But as I learned today, not all movie theaters equip their exit doors with the fire alarm system. Okay, fine. So I answered that question. But there's other questions that as I posed earlier in this video, that went unanswered. And if you step outside the mainstream reportings and just analyze the facts and ask the questions that are going unanswered, and then you look at how what was played out in history and what our own government admitted to doing over the course of the past 60, 70 years, all the dots kind of start connecting. I'm not saying that, myself personally believes this, nor am I saying that the people who reported such opinions believe this, nor do we want to be right. And again, the links are below to a number of different articles that I read. This is just an opinion and another view of the story that everybody really needs to take into consideration. Considering the government admitted to aiding in other false flag attacks, and as far as what their political agenda behind these false flag attacks were, what you got to do is look at the aftermath of the attack to figure that one out. It is safe to assume that there's a good possibility that this was a false flag attack staged by the government, and that this kid is acting like a complete nutcase where he actually feels like he's inside the movie was part of his neural programming, which can be done through drugs, hypnosis, a combination of the two, where he's being planted the idea inside of his head. Then, with the right keywords or the right image, whatever the trigger the programmer puts in your head, you'll then act out on your mission. And it could have been wrote into the program where if he was to come into custody, he's just to go bonkers. He's in this case, in the movie, completely lost it. This way there's no chance of anybody discovering who's really behind it, what the intentions of this really was. And his family gets paid off and gets to live, who knows where, under a new identity supplied by the government. In that case, as an independent journalist stated, would then make this guy, James Holmes, a real-life Jason Bourne. I don't know anybody who hasn't seen at least one of the Bourne movies. I myself saw the Bourne Identity and Bourne Supremacy. And that would be a really, scary state of affairs if this does happen to be a false flag attack, and then this guy does wind up being a modern day real life Jason Bourne. That would definitely be one really scary state of affairs. But it's something that needs to be taken into consideration, as it is a little too coincidental that somebody who is keyed into his online role-play games, has no money, is enrolled in a doctoral program, is in honors, all of a sudden, just like that, grows a fascination for weapons, and somehow gets the money to purchase the weapons and the equipment to Ruby Trapper's apartment, and somehow had the knowledge to put together all these explosive devices and tripwires and everything. And then there's the fact that he just surrenders. I'm ready for war, and he just surrenders. Just like that. And it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm going to continue following the case and see what other information comes out. I more than likely will have an update video with a more narrowed opinion of my own personal viewpoints of what this really was and where this is all going to lead to. But for right now, I'm keeping an open mind, and I'm trying to find answers to these unasked and yet still obviously unanswered questions. Over the past 12, 24 hours, people have been coming up with different answers to these questions. Everything from that he was a member of the Bloc moving within Occupy, and he did the shooting as a way of getting back to everybody, because the movie portrays the Occupy in an evil way, and he didn't like that. To the fact that, to the other side of things, where he was a CIA hired black operative to perform a false flag terror attack with the political agenda of having a nationwide disarmament of the American people, and the nullification of the Second Amendment, considering it's a little too coincidental that right next week is when Obama and Hillary Clinton are supposed to be signing the Arms Trade Treaty with the United Nations. All this, there's just too much that doesn't make any sense. And there's too much that's a little too coincidental. And there's too many questions that aren't even being asked by the mainstream news media. And considering the police are being a little secretive in what's going on, I don't know for certain if they are or are not asking these questions amongst themselves. But the fact of the matter is, the mainstream news media aren't asking these questions. and nobody outside independent journalists and the blogosphere is attempting to come up with any kind of answers to these questions. Where am I leaning as of this moment? As I said, I'm keeping an open mind about all of this. Either way you look at it, people lost their lives, and my thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. And this kid obviously committed a crime. He deserves to be locked up. He deserves, whatever the law brings about him. And I do believe that there was somebody else involved in this. Granted, the police said they're looking for a second person of interest, but I personally believe, a few other people that are reporting that the reason why they're taking so long to get into that they took so long to get into the department, and why they're taking so long to release information, is because they're watching social media and what people are saying, so they can release information based on that to kind of push everybody in the direction where they want us to go. And I do believe that. I do believe that they're trying to keep control over the public's beliefs of what really took place and whatnot. And do I believe that there was a second person involved? Yes, I do. But do I believe he was a member of the Occupy movement, or this Occupy Black Bloc, or whatever? No, I don't. Though there it has been speculation that there was, a posting on OccupyWallStreet.org that somebody who claims to be a member of Black Bloc was bragging about his aid in this massacre at the movie theater. Though by the time I got to the article and clicked on the link to the posting on the website, it has already been removed. When some people said they have, photo images that were saved to the system they have showing in their articles, and others are saying that was all photoshopped, it's all fake. I don't know, and I can't say for certain because I didn't see the posting on the website itself. So was it really there or not? I have no idea. Again, anything's possible. It could be, a made-up image of a posting that was never there to begin with. On the other hand, it could have been there, and it could be an actual image, just that these people took it down, not allowing it to be up there for too long. Anything's possible. But there are a lot of people that are believing that he had help either from somebody within the police force or somebody within the military. Again, I'm trying to keep an open mind. I'm still forming my opinion based on all the facts and information that's being revealed. And unfortunately, there just isn't enough information out yet where I can formulate my opinion. Where I'm 100% certain this is what I believe. I do believe that there's a lot of questions that have gone unanswered. I do believe that either way, whether he too was a victim in this massacre where he had this implanted into his brain under hypnosis, where he subjected himself to a neuroscience research project, and it just kind of went in a direction he wasn't expecting it to go in, or not. Either way, he deserves whatever the law decides to throw at him. And whoever else is involved in this that helped him out along the way, deserves, punishment as well, because obviously they had quite a bit of involvement in this case. Not only did they give him the idea, they helped him along with the getting the money for the weapons and the explosives. They had to train them how to use the firearms and how to put the explosives together and how to set everything up as a booby trap, as sophisticated as he had it. So I'm sorry, with no training, there's no way you're going to construct something that sophisticated. It's just not going to happen. So that being said, I'm again going to say that I'm keeping an open mind. I don't believe the mainstream story. They're just not asking the right questions, nor are they answering the questions that are already out there, let alone the ones that they haven't even asked. And there's got to be a reason for that. How can you cover a case going on 48 hours now and not ask, obvious questions? In every other crime, every question somebody can come up with, these reporters put out there. And as, information reveals itself that can answer the question, they then spit out the answer to the question. And that's not being done in this case. In my opinion, it's looking like whether he was a subject of a neuroscience research project that went terribly wrong, or he was hired by the CIA for a black op false flag attack, or whatever. I don't believe he acted out on this alone. I believe that there is definitely at least one other person involved, if not more. And as I said, I'll more than likely have another video update on this. More of the links to my sources as far as him being a member of Occupy Black Bloc, the fact that he was arrested at Occupy San Diego, and the fact that he could possibly be a CIA operative or a part of a neuroscience research project gone terribly wrong, are all below. So, just click on the links, and there's all the information, or at least, some of the information, as many of the links that I was able to go back and track and put in the video that I felt were relevant to what I'm discussing about. All the mainstream links I didn't feel was necessary to post. I'm sure everybody already read the mainstream story a million times over. Another couple of days, I'm going to have an update video on this with, a definitive opinion of mine of what I think is really going on here, and what I believe is going to come out of all this. As of right now, as I said, I'm keeping an open mind. It is looking like it is looking like it is a false flag attack. It is looking like this just may be a false flag attack designed to strip us of our Second and First Amendment rights, and possibly implement a race war to some degree. Again, everything is just too coincidental. And when you combine how this massacre went, and all the coincidences of the event and of James Holmes himself, and you match that to the executive orders Obama has been signing, including those he just recently signed within the past couple of months, and the authorities that it gives them, we're looking at a complete nullification of the Constitution, a complete nationwide disarmament, and there's a good chance we may not see elections. You know, I'm hesitant to say that. I don't want to believe it. But that's unfortunately, you know, the pattern that seems to be going on here. You know, I'm sorry if I'm starting to laugh. I'm having a hard time dealing with where I'm seeing America going. If any of you can understand that, you know, listening to, you know, my different family members of mine, going all the way up to my great grandparents, listening to how America was from the late 1800s, you know, all the way through and through. This just isn't America, you know. And I'm trying hard to believe that, you know, we're gonna pull through this. I'm trying really hard to believe that, you know, as Americans, we're gonna come together as a nation and we're gonna pull through this. That this is only a rather large bump in American history, but that we're gonna get past it. And I pray that we're gonna get past it each and every day. And by the way, anybody questioning the executive orders and why I feel that that's, you know, and there's a possible pattern forming from these executive orders and why that pattern relates to this massacre, the link to that article is also down below. So if you want any more in-depth information as to what I covered in this video, the links are below, as well as the links to my website, to the ministry's website, and my Facebook pages, the ministry's Facebook pages, my Twitter accounts, the ministry's Twitter accounts, etc., and so on, as usual as I have on all of my videos. But the very first few links is the news articles covering James Holmes and what I, you know, said about him and what I believe, and this may be leaning towards, and where a few other independent journalists' opinions on this and where they feel this may be leaning towards, as well as the article of Obama's executive orders and where the pattern of the executive orders may be leaning. And if you compare the executive order pattern to the coincidences of this massacre and the unanswered questions of this massacre, you know, all I gotta say, folks, we're in really scary times. I don't know how any of you, you know, can watch the news, read the paper, listen to the radio, and call yourself a Bible-believing Christian, you know, who reads your Bible every day, goes to church every Sunday, and has some understanding of the Bible, and doesn't realize that we are in end times. Even if you don't want to believe that we're in tribulation yet, you've got to at least admit we're in the days leading into tribulation, and tribulation is about to begin. That's where everything is looking like it's leading. The days ahead are going to be very, very rough and very, very scary. We need to band together now more than ever as a people, as a nation, as one nation, as one race. We need to pull together. We need to defend our freedom. We need to keep an open mind on everything that goes on. We need to stop putting 100% faith and trust in mainstream news media, because they have lied to us time and time again. They are lying to us again now. They are deliberately withholding facts on not just this massacre, but on numerous different cases. If you Google it, if you do the research yourself, you will realize just how many times, on how many instances, the mainstream media has lied to us. And you will also see that this is not the only time, the only incident in American history. But over the past 70 years, there have been numerous incidences where the government has posed a false flag attack, had a full guy and everything, and used the media to push the public opinion where they wanted it to go for their own political agendas. And up until now, it's been successful. And why it's up until now is because thanks to social media, more and more people are able to act as independent journalists or independent bloggers and push facts out there that with any witnesses of any kind of crime can put facts out there in real time. And these witnesses, as mainstream media is covering the case, can then confirm or deny what the mainstream media is saying. And it is my opinion that is why, one of the reasons why government wants full control of the internet, because they're running scared, because they are losing control. Slowly but surely, the people are waking up. And people are realizing that we have been part of... I don't want to keep on relating this back to a movie, but we've been part of the Matrix. And people are waking up. They're unplugging themselves from the system. They're taking the red pill. And they're running scared. Because the more people that unplug from the system, that unplug from the Matrix, the less control they have. And that's that if every person unplugs, that's one person more that can out the government for what's going on and what they say. People that they tell us have been executed because they committed a crime X amount of years ago, or X amount of months ago, they will say, with photographic evidence, they're still alive because they were just spotted over here or over there at whatever event or protest. I know it sounds conspiratorial, but it's the truth. In the past couple of years, I have uncovered more mind-boggling things that sent me on an emotional roller coaster ride. But folks, regardless whether you want to think I'm crazy or not, at least heed my warning. Keep an open mind. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. We're looking at a rough ride. Another couple of days, I'll have an updated video on my definitive opinion of what I think this massacre is. As of right now, I'm leaning towards the possibility that it's a false flag attack designed to help in the banning and confiscation of America's weapons. That's where I'm leaning. I'll give you a definitive opinion in a few days as more information on this case comes out. Until then, thank you for watching. God bless.